Hey there. Have you ever noticed how hard it is to walk away from something that is working, even when it no longer feels right? A road that pays well, a path that looks sensible, a routine that once felt like progress now feels like maintenance. What if the real risk is never making space for what matters most? We are taught to admire persistence, to celebrate grit, to push through doubt and keep going. Yet, there is a deeper question that many of us carry, especially as our lives and responsibilities grow. How do you know when staying is an act of strength and when it has quietly become avoidance? This episode is about visiting that tension. It's about reframing quitting as a strategic decision rather than a personal failure. It's about understanding the opportunity cost of staying too long, and also about recognizing when letting go creates momentum, not regret. If you've ever felt torn between comfort and curiosity, between stability and alignment, this conversation is for you. Welcome back to The Strategic Thinker, or TST for short. If you're a regular listener, thank you. Your presence and curiosity continue to shape this community. If this is your first time here, I'm glad you found us. TST is a sanctuary for your mind, a calm space away from the noise where you can slow down, think deeply, and reset your direction. Every conversation here is designed to help you approach life, work, and decisions with more intention and clarity. I'm Alan, your host. Let's dive in. Quitting carries a heavy emotional weight and gets a bad rap. Have you ever thought why we dread this word? Here's my take on this topic. From an early age, we are taught that persistence is a virtue. We were praised for sticking it out and pushing through. We are rewarded for endurance. We celebrate stories of people who pushed through adversity and eventually made it. Over time, this creates a powerful narrative. Keeping at it becomes synonymous with strength. Quitting becomes associated with weakness, failure, or a lack of resilience. That story is telling. It shows up in how we talk about careers. It shows up in relationships, projects, and long-term commitments. It shows up in quiet pressure to keep going, because walking away feels like giving up on something we already invested so much in. There's also a practical layer to this. As our lives become more complex, staying feels safer. Steady income, predictable routines, clear expectations. Comfort grows gradually, and with it, a sense of obligation to maintain what we have built. The longer we stay, the harder it feels to step away. This is where the idea of quitting becomes distorted too. We start to see quitting as retreat, as wasted effort, as a decision driven by fear. However, when you step back, a different picture emerges. Research into end-of-life reflection consistently shows something striking. You might have heard that people tend to regret what they did not try far more than what they tried and failed at. That insight helps reframe today's conversation. Strategic quitting is about creating space and energy for what matters most. Quitting is about honesty rather than impulse. Quitting is about standing in front of the mirror and saying, I gave this my best with the person I am today, and I have learned that my next chapter requires a different arena. This distinction matters. This episode is not an invitation to quit quickly. It's an invitation to quit consciously. It's about separating emotional quitting driven by frustration or avoidance from what I'm calling strategic quitting, guided by learning, self-awareness, and a vision for the future. From here, we'll move into how this plays out in real life, how comfort can trap us if we're not careful, how opportunity costs compound, and how letting go, when done well, becomes a source of momentum. In episode 27, we explore the comfort trap, the idea of comfort as familiarity, the steady rhythm of day-to-day life, the reliable paycheck, the non-expectations, and the sense that things are fine. Comfort rarely feels dangerous, but this is what can make it risky. Over time, comfort can quietly become a ceiling as we avoid the perceived risks that can take us to the next level. Early in our careers, change often feels easier. There is less to lose, less identity tied to a role, more permission to experiment. As responsibilities grow, the stakes feel higher. Financial commitments increase, reputation solidifies, optionality narrows. Staying begins to feel like the responsible choice, even when curiosity or misalignment starts to surface. This is where opportunity cost enters the picture. Every year you stay invested in something that no longer fits, you are also choosing not to invest that time, energy, talent elsewhere. This is an important point, so I'm going to repeat it. To stay invested in something that no longer fits your vision means you are choosing not to invest that time, energy, talent elsewhere. This cost compounds in small trade-offs that accumulate over time. What makes this especially challenging is that comfort often disguises itself as logic. We tell ourselves these: it's not that bad. Things could be worse. This is what being responsible looks like. These seemingly logical thoughts can mask some challenges brewing underneath, a sense that your effort might be better placed elsewhere, a feeling that growth is slowing, a question that keeps returning, even when you keep pushing it aside. This tension is critical information. It is something that we need to pay attention to. I've felt it before, have you? Alex Honnold, a free solo climber known for operating at the edge of fear and focus. He recently scaled Taipei 101 building, one of the tallest buildings in the world, without any safety gear. He once spoke about fear as something that lives more vividly in our minds than reality, and that fear often signals uncertainty, not danger. Therefore, when unexamined, fear keeps us stuck. On the other hand, when understood, fear becomes data. Strategic quitting works the same way. It asks what this fear of quitting is protecting: comfort, identity, safety, or simply the avoidance of regret. This is the bridge between staying and leaving. It's an honest assessment. Have I stayed because this still aligns with who I'm becoming? Or have I stayed because leaving feels uncomfortable? From here, the conversation shifts, because once you see the comfort trap clearly, the question is no longer, should I quit? It becomes, what am I choosing by staying? Up next, we'll draw a clear line between emotional quitting and strategic quitting, and why confusing the two often leads to regret in either direction. Most of the confusion around quitting comes from one simple thing. We treat all quitting as the same, when in fact it isn't. There's a meaningful difference between what I call emotional quitting and strategic quitting, and understanding that difference changes everything. Emotional quitting happens in reaction. It shows up when frustration peaks, when exhaustion takes over, when a bad week becomes the driver for a long-term decision. In these moments, quitting feels like escape. The primary goal is relief, to stop the discomfort, to get away from the pressure. Sometimes emotional quitting is understandable. It signals burnout, it signals misalignment, it signals that something needs attention. However, on its own, emotional quitting often leads to regret, because the decision usually comes from running away instead of running to. Strategic quitting is different. Unlike emotional quitting, which happens in reaction, strategic quitting comes from reflection. It's rooted in honesty. This is the moment when you can look yourself in the mirror and say, hand on heart, I have given this my best from who I am today. I have learned what this path can teach me, and continuing here would now cost more than it gives. That distinction matters. Strategic quitting is not about running away from difficulty. It's about recognizing diminishing returns. You are not quitting because it's hard. You are quitting because the learning curve has flattened, because growth has slowed, because the effort no longer gets you closer to your vision. This is where quitting becomes a form of reallocation. Time is reallocated, energy is reallocated, attention is also reallocated towards another direction. Strategic quitting also respects timing. It considers what needs to be put in place before letting go: financial buffers, skill transitions, emotional readiness. It's about being patient. It's about being intentional, and it's rarely dramatic. Most importantly, strategic quitting keeps your agency intact. You are choosing, not escaping. You are designing, not reacting. This is why quitting, when done strategically, creates space for something else to grow. Up next, we'll explore why staying too long often carries a higher cost than leaving, and how opportunity cost quietly shapes the decisions we avoid. Staying often feels like the responsible choice. It looks steady, it looks committed, it looks mature. Sometimes we forget. But there is a cost to staying that rarely shows up on a balance sheet. Every commitment you maintain consumes resources: time, energy, attention, emotional bandwidth. These resources are finite. Once they are allocated, they are no longer available elsewhere. This is where opportunity cost quietly enters the picture. It's about what you forgo by staying committed to the misaligned commitment for too long. When you stay too long in a role, a project, or a direction that has stopped stretching you, something subtle happens. You stop growing at the same rate. Your curiosity softens. Your edge dulls just a little. Nothing breaks. Nothing collapses. Life continues. This is precisely why this cost is easy to ignore. Staying the course rarely hurts in obvious ways. It drains slowly. It trades potential for predictability. It replaces growth with maintenance. We explored this in a comfort trap episode. Comfort is not the enemy. It serves a purpose. It gives us stability and recovery. The challenge appears when comfort becomes the reason decisions are deferred. A steady paycheck can quietly become a golden anchor. Familiar routines can become invisible constraints. Certainty can crowd out curiosity. Earlier in life, switching paths often feels easier. There's less to lose, fewer dependencies, more margin for error. As careers progress, the stakes feel higher, responsibilities increase, the cost of disruption appears larger. This is where staying too long becomes tempting, because it is known, and if it's not broken, why fix it? And that's the paradox. The longer you stay in something that no longer fits, the harder it becomes to leave. Skills become specialized. Confidence in starting something new fades. Momentum towards your vision drops. This is why strategic quitting often feels uncomfortable before it starts feeling liberating. It asks you to acknowledge that the potential value of living now outweighs the cost of staying. It invites you to trade short-term security for long-term alignment. Staying the course should be a conscious choice, not a default. Commitment should be renewed, not assumed. When you see opportunity cost clearly, quitting stops looking like a failure. It starts looking like stewardship. Stewardship of your time, stewardship of your energy, stewardship of the life you are still building. Up next, we will explore energy itself as a strategic resource and why protecting it is essential to momentum. This next concept may be harder to explain, so bear with me. Energy is something we all experience, yet rarely examine. You feel it in your body, in your motivation, in how long you can stay engaged without forcing yourself. Some activities give you energy. You finish them feeling clearer, lighter, and even curious about what's next. You could return to them again tomorrow without much resistance. Other activities take your energy. You probably push through them. They drain you quietly, and even when you do well, you feel relief rather than satisfaction when they end. Most of us already know this intuitively. The challenge is that we don't always trust what we feel. We explain the drain away. It's just a busy period. This is what I signed up for, and I should be grateful. Over time, those justifications stack up, and energy slowly drains. Strategic quitting begins with a simple internal dialogue, one that requires honesty more than courage. You start by noticing which activities elevate your energy, which ones feel sustainable, even if they are demanding, which ones consistently leave you depleted, tense, or numb. The answer shows up in small signals: how you feel before starting, how you feel during, and how you feel after. It's also important to notice the context. The same activity can feel different on different days, or in different environments, or with different people. A role might energize you in one season and drain you in another. A project might feel exciting in the beginning and heavy once learning plateaus. That doesn't mean anything went wrong. It just means something's changed. Strategic quitting is not about reacting to one bad day, though. It's about observing patterns over time. When you notice a consistent pattern on how you feel about certain activities, it's a signal worth respecting. Here's the key shift. Quitting in this sense is not about giving up or stopping. It's about redirecting your finite resources. When you step away from activities that consistently drain you, you don't lose energy, you reclaim it. That reclaimed energy can be invested in work that compounds, work you can sustain, work that takes you closer to the life of your dreams. This is how the next level often appears too. Not through doing more, but through doing less of what no longer fits. This requires honesty with yourself and oftentimes with your loved ones. A quiet moment of looking in the mirror and asking, hand on heart, is this still worth my best energy? When the answer becomes no, choosing to continue carries a cost. When you listen to yourself carefully, energy can be important signals. It may not tell you where to go exactly, but it may just tell you where to avoid. And that's often the beginning of the next adventure. Let's wrap this up. Quitting has carried a heavy label for a long time. It's been framed as weakness, as failure, as something to avoid at all costs. Today was an invitation to see it differently. We explore how strategic quitting is not about escape, but about reallocation. How staying too long often carries a higher cost than staying the course, and how energy, when listened to honestly, becomes one of the most reliable signals for sustainable growth. So, the real question is not, am I quitting? It is, what am I choosing to commit to next? When you let go with intention, you create space. Space to learn, space to grow, space to pursue something that matters more. This is not permission to walk away from everything that feels uncomfortable, though. It's permission to be honest with yourself, to recognize when a chapter has taught you everything it can, and to trust that redirecting your effort is sometimes the most courageous move you can make. So as you move through the days ahead, notice where you are staying by default. Notice what you are continuing out of habit rather than intention. And notice where a thoughtful release might just unlock your next level of growth. If this conversation resonated with you, I invite you to stay connected. You can join the Compass newsletter for reflections and mental models designed to help you think long-term and live with intention. You can sign up on our website at masontst.com. As always, thank you for spending this time with me. You hold the power to shape your destiny. Strategic thinking is your compass. We will build an amazing future, one thoughtful decision at a time. Until next time, keep getting better every day.